I heard the moving truck before I heard my mother's voice. I was standing in the kitchen of my villa, the one I'd worked 12 years to buy, when the sound of hydraulic brakes hissed outside the gate. Then came the knock. Not a polite knock. The kind that says, "We're already inside, we're just letting you know." My mother walked in first. My father followed. And behind them, rolling 2 suitcases and carrying my 3-year-old nephew, was my sister, Claire. She smiled at me like she was doing me a favor. That's when I knew, this wasn't a visit. Let me take you back so you understand how we got here. I'm Jessica. I'm 34. I'm a corporate strategist for a tech firm in Austin, Texas. I've lived alone in this city since I was 22, built my career from the ground up, and last year I closed on a $2 million villa in the hills, floor-to-ceiling windows, infinity pool, guest wing, the works. It was my dream. My achievement. Mine. My sister, Claire, is 31. She's always been the golden child. Literally. Blonde, bubbly, married her high school sweetheart at 23, had 2 kids by 27. My parents adored her. She could do no wrong. Me? I was the career girl. The one who didn't need help. The one who was fine. Translation: I was invisible unless they needed something. Claire and her husband Jake lived in a suburb outside of Dallas. They rented a 3-bedroom house, drove matching SUVs, posted Instagram photos of family brunches. From the outside, it looked perfect. But 6 months ago, Jake lost his job. Then they lost the lease on their house. Claire called my parents in tears. And my parents? They called me. Not to ask. To tell. Jessica, Claire needs to stay with you for a while. If you've ever been the kid who was expected to sacrifice while the favorite got celebrated, tell me where you're watching from. Because I need you to know, you're not alone. It started with a phone call 3 weeks before the moving truck. I was at my desk, finishing a presentation, when my mother's name flashed on my screen. I answered. Jessica, honey, we need to talk. Her voice had that syrupy tone she used when she wanted something. I braced myself. Claire and Jake are going through a hard time, she said. They've had to move out of their place. We thought it would be wonderful if they stayed with you for a bit. You have all that space. I paused. Mom, I work from home. I have client calls. I need my space. It's just temporary, Jessica. Family helps family. That phrase. Family helps family. It was the hammer she used to flatten every boundary I'd ever tried to set. How temporary? I asked. A few months. Maybe 6. Just until Jake finds something. 6 months. In my home. With 2 toddlers, a stressed-out brother-in-law, and my sister, who had never cleaned a dish in her life. I don't think that's a good idea, I said. Silence. Then my father's voice, hard and cold, broke in from the background. Jessica, don't be selfish. Claire's been crying for days. You will help her. Click. They hung up. 3 weeks later, the moving truck pulled up. I hadn't agreed. I hadn't said yes. But they came anyway. My mother breezed through the front door like she owned the place. Oh, Jessica, this is even more beautiful than the photos. Claire, look at this kitchen. Claire set my nephew down on my white leather couch, still in his muddy shoes, and sighed. Thank God. I didn't know how much longer I could do motels. I stood there, frozen. You were supposed to ask me first. My mother waved a hand. We did ask. You said you'd think about it. I said no. Well, my father said, hauling in a box labeled Claire, kitchen, you're not saying no now, are you? They moved her entire family into my guest wing in under 2 hours. 4 bedrooms, a playroom, a kitchenette. They'd planned this. Coordinated it. Decided for me. And when I tried to pull my mother aside, she looked at me with those disappointed eyes and said, I thought you were better than this, Jessica. I really did. Tap like if you've ever been guilt-tripped into giving up something that was yours. Because that moment? That was the moment I started planning. Living with Claire was exactly as bad as I'd feared. She treated my villa like a hotel. Wet towels on the floor. Dishes piled in the sink. Her kids screaming through my client calls. Jake sprawled on my couch every afternoon, scrolling his phone, applications pending. But it was the small things that cut the deepest. One morning, I came downstairs to find Claire rearranging my living room. She'd moved my furniture, swapped out my art, put up a gallery wall of her family photos. What are you doing? I asked. She smiled. Just making it feel more homey. You had it so cold in here, Jess. Cold. My design. My taste. My home. Another night, I made dinner for myself, salmon, roasted vegetables, a glass of wine. I plated it, sat down, and Claire walked in. Oh, you're eating already? She looked hurt. I thought we'd all eat together. As a family. I'd cooked for one. She knew that. But she stood there, wounded, until I scraped half my plate onto hers. My mother called that weekend. How's it going? I started. Claire says you've been wonderful. She's so grateful, Jessica. We're so proud of you. Proud. For the first time in years, they were proud of me, because I was serving Claire. Comment below if you know what it's like to be valued only when you're useful. I want to hear your stories. 2 months in, I hosted a dinner party. I'd planned it for weeks, clients, colleagues, potential investors. It was important. Professional. I'd catered, set the table, bought flowers. I'd asked Claire to keep the kids upstairs. She agreed. The night of the party, my guests arrived. We were midway through appetizers when I heard it, thundering footsteps. Shrieking laughter. My nephew barreled into the dining room, covered in chocolate, and crashed into the dessert table. Everything toppled. Cake, wine, glassware, everywhere. My guests froze. I turned to see Claire standing in the doorway, phone in hand, filming. Oh my God, that's hilarious, she said, laughing. Kids, right? She didn't apologize. Didn't help. She just stood there, recording my humiliation. One of my investors, a woman I'd been courting for 6 months, stood up, dabbed her dress, and said, Jessica, let's reschedule. They all left within 10 minutes. I found Claire in the kitchen, scrolling Instagram. You posted that? It's cute, she said. People love kid content. That was a work event, Claire. You promised? Relax. It's not that serious. Not that serious. My career. My reputation. My home. That night, I called my parents. They need to leave, I said. My father's voice went ice cold. You're going to kick your sister out? While she's struggling? She's not struggling. She's using me. You've always been jealous of her, Jessica. Don't think we don't see it. Jealous. That word landed like a slap. My mother took the phone. Her voice was soft, pitying. Sweetheart, we know you're not used to having people around. But family is everything. Don't make a decision you'll regret. Then she hung up. I stopped pleading that night. I sat in my office, staring at the walls, and something shifted inside me. I wasn't going to beg anymore. I wasn't going to explain. I was going to act. I started small. I checked the lease I'd stupidly signed when my mother insisted I formalize things for insurance purposes. Turns out, I'd signed a short-term lease agreement giving Claire legal tenant rights for 6 months. 6 months. Legally binding. My mother had trapped me. But then I found something else. I was going through my filing cabinet, looking for the original deed to the villa, when I came across an old folder labeled Family Finances. Inside were documents my mother had asked me to store years ago, tax records, loan applications, old mortgage files. And tucked in the back, a letter from Claire to my parents, dated 3 years ago. It was a loan request. $50,000. For Jake's business venture. My parents had co-signed. But the business never happened. The money disappeared. And according to a follow-up email I found, Claire and Jake had defaulted on the loan, leaving my parents on the hook. My parents had never told me. But Claire had known. She'd borrowed from them, burned them, and then, when she needed help again, she'd sent them to me. That's when I realized, this wasn't about family. This was about convenience. If you've ever discovered the truth hiding in plain sight, subscribe so you don't miss what I did next. Because this was just the beginning. I spent the next week building my plan. First, I consulted a real estate attorney. Turns out, the lease my mother made me sign had a clause: if the tenant caused significant property damage or disturbance, I could terminate it with 30 days' notice. I documented everything. Photos of the destroyed furniture. Recordings of the kids screaming during my work calls. Receipts for the ruined dinner party. A timeline of Claire's refusal to follow house rules. Then I went further. I contacted Jake's former employer. Asked a few careful questions. Turns out, Jake hadn't been laid off, he'd been fired for falsifying timesheets. He'd lied to Claire. She'd lied to my parents. And they'd all lied to me. Armed with that, I made a call to my parents. I need to talk to you both. In person. This weekend. Jessica, if this is about Claire. It's not. It's about the villa. There's been an issue with the title. Legal stuff. I need you here to sign something. They agreed. I set the meeting for Saturday afternoon. Then I sent Claire and Jake an email: family meeting this weekend. Be ready. And then I prepared my gift. Saturday came. My parents arrived first, dressed like they were attending a board meeting. Claire and Jake followed, looking annoyed. What's this about? My father asked. I gestured to the living room. Sit. They sat. I stood. I opened my laptop and turned the screen toward them. This, I said, is the lease Mom made me sign. The one that gave Claire legal tenant rights. I've reviewed it with an attorney. And as of today, I'm formally terminating it under the property damage clause. Claire's face went pale. You can't do that. I can. I have 30 days documented evidence of damage, disturbance, and breach of house rules. You'll have 30 days to vacate. My mother stood. Jessica, you're being ridiculous. Sit down, Mom. Something in my voice made her sit. I pulled up the next file. This is the loan request Claire sent you 3 years ago. $50,000. Co-signed by you. Defaulted by her. You never told me about it. But you sent her to my house when she needed help again. My father's jaw tightened. That's private. And this, I continued, opening another file, is Jake's termination letter. He wasn't laid off. He was fired for fraud. Jake shot to his feet. That's none of your business. It became my business when you moved into my house under false pretenses. The room went silent. Claire's voice cracked. Jess, we didn't have anywhere else to go. Then you should have been honest. You should have asked, not demanded. You should have respected my space, my career, my life. But you didn't. Because you never saw me as a person. Just a backup plan. My mother's face hardened. So what, you're kicking your sister out? Onto the street? No, I said. I'm giving her 30 days and a referral to a rental assistance program. Which is more than she gave me when she trashed my home. If this moment resonates with you, if you've ever had to choose yourself over people who only valued you for what you could give, comment below. I see you. But I wasn't done. I reached into my bag and pulled out a small envelope. This, I said, handing it to my parents, is my gift. My father opened it. Inside was a check for $50,000. What is this? He asked. It's the loan Claire defaulted on. I'm paying it off. In full. So you're no longer financially tied to her. My mother stared at me. Why would you? Because you're my parents. And I love you. Even when you don't see me. Even when you choose her. But I won't let her use you anymore. And I won't let you use me. Claire started crying. You're making me the villain. You made yourself the villain, Claire. I'm just refusing to be your victim. I looked at my parents. You raised me to be independent. To be strong. To not need anyone. Congratulations. It worked. But you don't get to punish me for it now. My father said nothing. My mother's hands shook. I walked to the door and opened it. 30 days, I said. After that, the locks change. They left in silence. Tap like if you've ever had to set a boundary that felt like an ending. Because sometimes, the hardest gift you give is the truth. The next 30 days were strange. Claire and Jake barely spoke to me. They moved out on day 28, quiet and efficient. No apologies. No goodbyes. My parents called once. My father's voice was stiff. We'll pay you back for the loan. I don't want you to, I said. I want you to think about why I had to do it in the first place. He hung up. My mother sent a text 2 weeks later, we're sorry. We didn't realize how much we'd asked of you. I didn't reply right away. I needed the space. But I did eventually respond, I know. And I forgive you. But things have to be different now. She sent back a single heart emoji. It wasn't much. But it was something. A month after they left, I stood in my villa and breathed. The guest wing was empty. The living room was mine again. The silence was mine again. I repainted the walls. Bought new furniture. Threw out every trace of those 3 months. And then I did something I hadn't done in years. I invited friends over. Not for work. Not for networking. Just because. We sat by the pool, drank wine, laughed. One of them, a friend I'd known since college, looked at me and said, "You seem lighter." I was. Because I'd learned something crucial: boundaries aren't cruel. They're necessary. And protecting your peace isn't selfish, it's survival. Here's what I want you to know. Family is important. I believe that. But family doesn't mean erasing yourself. It doesn't mean being used, dismissed, or diminished. Love without boundaries isn't love. It's manipulation. And if the people in your life only value you when you're giving, they don't value you. They value what you provide. It took me 12 years to build my dream. It took 3 months for my family to nearly destroy it. But it took 30 days for me to take it back. And I'd do it again. If you've ever had to choose yourself, even when it hurt, subscribe for more stories like this. You deserve to hear that you're not wrong. You're not selfish. You're just finally free. The villa is quiet now. I still see my parents. We're working on it. Slowly. Carefully. Claire and I don't talk. Maybe one day we will. Maybe we won't. But I sleep well now. I work without interruption. I host dinners, and no one crashes them. I gave my family a gift that day, the truth, wrapped in a boundary. But the real gift? I gave it to myself. I gave myself permission to stop shrinking. To stop apologizing. To stop being invisible. And if you're reading this, watching this, feeling this, here's my final gift to you. You don't owe anyone access to your life. Not even family. Especially not family who only shows up when they need something. Tell me in the comments, have you ever had to set a boundary that cost you a relationship? Because I want you to know, you're not alone. And you're not wrong. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. This is Jessica. And this is my story.